It has been just past the date of 1 year of an Albanese government. So what's the reaction so far, and particularly from voters? Joining me live is Australian Financial Review political editor Philip Curry. Thanks for your time.
Tom.
Interesting, you had a few polls in over the weekend, and I guess generally, I won't say the H word, the peak of the popularity is past, and that's no surprise. Is there anything going beyond that, though? Because Labor really want to be good economic managers, and is the sheen coming off a bit?
The shine off the new ball, you think? Yeah, look, we had a really sort of extensive bit of work in our paper on the weekend, Tom, by Freshwater Strategy, which is a new but reputable group. Look, Labor, they're in a good spot. If you had the election today, they'd win, obviously. And Anthony Albanese remains vastly more popular than Peter Dutton. But I think if you sort of read between the lines a bit in some of the polls, and we did a dig down on the key issues. It's and you don't get any argument for this within the Labor Party either. But it's sort of welcome to government now. It's the big sense of relief or whatever it was that accompanied the change of government a year ago has gone. And we saw in the Aston by-election in April how it was actually Peter Dutton who was first to say it, but that they weren't blaming Labor for the cost of living then. And that's helped Labor win a mortgage bill seat. That's now changing. It hasn't just changed, but it's changing, and the sort of descent now, the housing, cost of living, economic management, these sorts of things. And in the poll we had, Labor had lost a very hard-won lead on economic management, so sort of pretty much statistically even, and similar on migration. They're taking blows, and so it's just getting into that hard phase now of governing.
And this is, whether it's fair or unfair to judge a government on that. I mean, migration, big numbers are coming, and we know it's just a forecast. People didn't come during COVID. There's a backlog of workers and uni students, but now it's up to Labor to sort out their arrival. Interest rates, again, unfairly or fairly, the marker being set down by the coalition, and perhaps one an increasing number of voters might accept, is if you have a rate rise from here, is it on Labor?
Yeah. And that's politics, isn't it? I mean, in reality, if that budget handed down 2 weeks ago was inflationary, it would take about a year before the data would reflect that. But
when you could have had a bit, the Lamito, for example, could have been a lot more instant.
Sure, but the economists will tell you take it like whatever. But that doesn't matter, because I think because of the emphasis that budget put on inflation and the cost of living, and the way the coalition responded to it, basically, whether it's fair or not, and often it's not in politics, they're going to hold Labor to hold their feet to the fire for every rate rise and inflation number from here on in. So you now got to own it. And I think Labor, they understand that. They may not like it, but that's the sort of reality they'll be dealing with.
And then it gets to things such as the next policy battle, same job, same pay, which sounds fine and logical, but sometimes beneath the surface it gets a bit trickier. So what's the issue here that business is raising, and is it a legitimate one?
Well, same job, same pay is basically aims to get rid of labour hire, right? So, and labour hire is very popular in the mines, in the airlines, in retail. So if you need an extra workforce or something, rather than take people on full time, you go to a labour hire firm and they supply the workers. So what you often have is people doing the same job being paid different rates. Now, that's just how it always has been with labour hire, but the unions have long wanted to get rid of it. Labor's committed to this same job, same pay, but it's enormously complicated to try and do it, because often people working for a labour hire firm are on completely different EBAs and so forth. You can't just tear up agreements and stuff.
They've done their own EBA.
Yeah, it's really complicated.
And it's through the economy is the point. Yeah. There's all these contracts and they're all used, and to change that instantly is difficult.
It's very difficult. And BHP has come out today, and they've said this will cost their operations about $1.3 billion a year in lost earnings. They say, their complaint is labour hire was framed as getting rid of exploitation of workers, but the proposed legislation goes well beyond that. It targets the legitimate use of labour hire, and you find the retailers are submitting that it's going to push their prices up. The airlines will be saying similar. So this strikes me, Tom, as the issue upon which business is going to stand and fight. They got sort of hoodwinked at the job summit last year, but had to cop that on multi-employer bargaining and so forth, but they're going to dig in here. And I think, again, it goes back to what we were saying at the start. Honeymoon's over, people are going to now start pushing back a bit at the government.
So if the theory was that everyone working on a particular job, if they got the same take-home pay, if an employer wanted to go labour hire because it's easier to find, that's fine. They pay the extra amount to the labour hire firm.
Yeah,
that's the theory.
Contract them, basically.
In reality, it washes through the economy so much there are separate deals done that even if you could get to that outcome one day, the change is the hardest bit as well?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
fair
it is. And it's just, well, look, businesses do it because it's cheaper, right? And it's more flexible. Right? Unions think it's a form of exploitation.
And businesses don't have to go through the hiring and all that sort of process.
And the unions argue, and well, these things in industrial relations, it's always a balance, right?
Yeah.
And clearly there's been exploitation of it, but it's not all exploitative. And it's used legitimately. What business is saying is the legitimate use is going to be wiped out as well. It's going to drive up wages. You can have wage rises not linked to productivity. It's going to have flow-through effects on the whole economy. Plus, it's going to hurt our biggest industries, which make all the money, like mining. So they're just going to have a fight.
Phil Curry, thank you.
Welcome.